যদি সবাই ফিরে যায়, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায়, যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায়, তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। যদি আলো না ধরে, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে, যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে, তবে বজ্রা নলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে।
Hi guys, thank you for joining the live stream. Today we have AcademicMan and the Libertarian Party of India with us. So far Ajay has joined and soon will Tushar. Thank you Ajay and thank you AcademicMan for joining our podcast.
Thanks for having us here.
By the way Ajay, congratulations on the recent all the buzz and popularity you guys are getting on Twitter and Instagram and print as well.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate all this support from your channel as well.
By the way, would you quickly address the criticisms from the right that you are getting on Twitter and the criticisms from the left that you are getting on Instagram?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, most of the response has been really positive. A lot of people are really appreciating the fact that, we are trying to do something which, I mean, there are a lot of people who have pro-market sentiments and, they feel pretty homeless. And so they're finally happy that they're seeing an opportunity, that there is somebody that they can get behind. And most of the criticism, I mean, there are obviously some people from the left who keep saying, these guys are privileged, these guys are this, largely because we have, one, because we are against reservations, and the second part being, obviously we are for capitalism and market. So it's the typical very left-wing Marxist
and
sort
you
of
are
an
in
attack
favor
saying,
of temple freedom as well, which is also pissing off
absolutely,
a lot of people.
absolutely. In fact, so nobody from the left actually is criticizing it for temple freedom. I mean, so far our comments have all been we are being attacked from the right, which is like super surprising. But again, what's happening is there a lot.
I think the casteism jibe is coming from the left because of temple freedom.
No. The casteism thing is coming because of our anti-reservation stance. So their main thing is because one, it is that we are anti-reservation, and two, they sort of conflate, any such political activism with, being in a position of privilege, because they think that somehow that the poor will, without giving some government things, they'll just not be able to do very well. So that criticism from the left. But on Twitter, so we are totally, all the vocal opposition is coming from the right. So one from the right, one argument is that they're comparing, saying, oh, this is another Aam Aadmi Party, which I find absolutely ridiculous, because we have nothing in common with Aam Aadmi Party. And it also sort of makes me annoyed that people are not really paying attention to what these political parties are doing. Yes, when Aam Aadmi Party was promoting itself, they said we are an anti-establishment party. But if you look at their stances, it was what? We are going to do more government schools, more government healthcare, free electricity, and if you look at their entire policy plank, it is a very left of center framework. It is a very socialist sort of a framework, and they said we are just going to do better governance. And if you look at it, whether it is the BJP or the Congress or the Aam Aadmi Party, their policy is always the same. If you elect us, we are good people, we are not corrupted people, so we'll do a good job, we'll run everything better, we'll run this better, run that better. But what is the Libertarian Party of India? What is our stance? We are saying we don't want the government running all these things. The problem is not that there is going to be some angels coming down from the sky in any party and doing a good job. It is that it is automatically prone to sort of corruption because of the incentives there. Nobody in the government is responsible, and corruption is going to creep in. So we want to dismantle the power of the government to run your life. So that is the thing. And on free temple issue, it's absolutely crazy. I think a lot of people are thinking that we are sort of stealing their policy framework, and and they're attacking us by saying that we are going to take away some votes of the BJP, which I think is really silly, because it's there are a lot of pro-market people both in Congress and BJP. You can argue that maybe there are more of them in BJP, but there are a lot of pro-market people in Congress who will only vote for Congress because they don't like BJP for other reasons.
Yeah.
Just like many BJP people on the LPI comments, they're saying, we definitely don't like a lot of stuff that the BJP does, but but we don't want to vote for Congress. We don't want them to get into power. So now people from both sides will be attracted to our party. And the other thing is, the free temples philosophy has been something that the BJP has talked about a lot. So why are they getting mad at us for something that is similar to their policy plan? So I think they're just feeling a bit insecure because they know that their government has not done anything about freeing the temples, and day by day they're just taking over more temples. So they're very pissed off about that. But what I told them is one thing. See, if they really think that BJP is going to steal our votes, please steal our entire policy plank. Please adopt all the free market principles. Make us irrelevant. No, so I mean, it's not like we want to be in politics, so we want to do all this. We just want India to be free. Please, whichever party wants, steal our entire manifesto, which is on our website. Implement all those policies. Steal all the votes; they belong to you, and I'll just happily go back to posting memes on Facebook and Twitter. So
yeah, we will all have a better life, and we will get back to doing other things. We won't have to waste our- so today we are going to discuss why privatization needs to come into the education sector. First, AcademicMan, I'll expect him to experience some of his personal findings from this field. Why he, as an academic himself, why does he think education must be privatized in India?
Am I audible and everything? Right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. So I'll start with something that has been raging on in West Bengal for the last 1 year. That is the SSC scam. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what was the SSC scam? So the school teachers who were supposed to be recruited by the government based on their merit and reservation policies, yada yada yada, whatever. Suddenly it was found out that they were paying 10, 20, 15 lakhs, whatever, for school teacher jobs. And all of this was exposed by, whatever intelligence, investigative agencies, and the court ordered them that the entire panel of 26,000 people would be, dismantled and kicked out. So these are 26,000 people who were teaching in government schools for, I think, around 7-8 years or 10 years almost, until they are suddenly kicked out. So firstly, the problem that I see here is there are two folds. One is that the schools are run by the government, which means that the government hires people based on their own political preferences, economic preferences, whatever. And this is bound to fall flat after a while. Most parties, yes, some parties get caught earlier. Most parties indulge in some kind of corruption in the school and college.
So quality of the product or the service is not even a concern at all here.
No, exactly. And that is why you will see the most socialist state in India, one of the most socialist states, West Bengal, has one of the highest dropout rates in higher education and even school education. So these are I'm not saying this is central government data, okay, even state government data. So that means that something is going wrong. You're recruiting a lot of people, you're giving education for free, for peanuts. You're actually giving midday meals to children to come, and they still don't want to come. Their parents still don't want to send them to school. There is something definitely wrong with this system. Now, as I see it, firstly, the government, when it tries to educate people on its own terms, forget the syllabus. Syllabus to ek baat hai hi, which the government messes up most of the time. The recruitment, the areas where the schools are made, the kind of the infrastructural facilities, everything is horrible. And yet on paper, the government does spend crores and crores of rupees of our taxpayer money on these schools and colleges. which if you take you wouldn't send your worst enemy's child to those schools. Okay, that is the worst part. Like you are spending. So who will then come and check every school and college for? There are thousands of government-run schools and colleges in this country. In each state, there are hundreds and thousands. So, एक में क्या what corruption is happening? How can you even find that out, and how can you hold people accountable? किसको you will hold accountable? There are ministers in jail, but the ministers, bureaucrats, हर किसी को jail में डाल दो. फिर new ministers will come again. Those people will be corrupt. It has never changed, right? Like it's not like you punish one scamster and everyone stops scamming people, right? There are newer scams, there are bigger scams. So the problem is that what I've seen is that the primary reason that people still support government education are two reasons. One is that everyone needs to be educated, which is in itself a fallacy, that in my opinion. Everyone needs to have higher education degrees. Everyone needs to have a bachelor's, master's, PhD. Everyone needs that. So make everything free, because then only then can you ensure everyone goes to school, everyone gets degrees. So that's number one. Number two is these provide steady jobs to a number of educated youth. Okay, that is the mental gymnastics that the next level happens. Ki matlab, if the system is failing, then a lot of people who are teachers, professors, policymakers, they come up with, but you know what? At least SSC gives jobs to a few 100,000 kids every year, or young people every year. So we're running so my taxpayer money is used to kind of feel good about some families that can run their families. Apart from that, there is West Bengal has the highest amount of private tutors, by the way. So this, I'm not saying, Amartya Sen's Pratichi Trust did this survey where they showed that West Bengal has one of the highest rates of private tutors. Okay, so that means that you can give education for free, but people are ultimately going to the private sector for a better quality of education. So if they are already ready to spend thousands of rupees on private sector education, which means private tuitions, coaching classes, then why the hell am I paying those taxes for that are funding these, horrible schools and midday meals which get stolen? Okay, so that's the whole point, that if there is supposed to be an equality, and there is another fallacy here, big fallacy. They show that one or two schools in Kolkata or some centrally located place which may run well because it's in the center of the city, or there's that one educational institute that runs well, produces good results, and they will say, see, dekho, this is the best. But that is the exception to the rule. For example, I'll give you an example. So in colleges, there was a ranking of colleges in by results and stuff, West Bengal. So the government, so only one government college made it to the top 5. Okay, in West Bengal. Matlab, this is only a West Bengal thing. The rest of the colleges that came up in the top 5 to 10 are all private colleges. Okay, Ramakrishna Mission run Vidya Mandir, St. Xavier's College, and other, some private institutes. Okay. Now, the problem here lies that if then private institutes are outperforming government institutes on almost every level, if parents are almost always ready to send their children to private schools and colleges whenever they get the chance. So everyone who has a bit of money will ultimately send their child to a private school or college, especially the school part. Okay, then why the hell are taxpayers' money being wasted like this? That is the big question, and that is why I'm telling. My point today is that I have, been involved in the education sector for over a decade now, and I've come to the realization that without privatization, there is no way out of this issue. By privatization, I don't mean, privatization, there are two ways. So how the Communist Party of India did it is, in West Bengal, is they destroyed the education system. Therefore, they opened up parallel franchisee type things where, the private schools pay the government and then they open a private school जिसका कोई standard नहीं है, ठीक है? And then the government is also selective in its whom it gives a license to operate a private school. That's also there.
Yeah.
So the privatization that happened in West Bengal is also a crappy version of crony capitalist privatization of healthcare and education. Because that was the result of excessive government control over land and resources, infrastructure and everything. Every step of the way you have to pay the government some money, then you can maybe open some St. Tommy, St. Rocky private school, okay? Which again, because of the lack of good government facilities, which again is a which is basically a normal thing nowadays. These private schools that are substandard are opened by the government. Many times the government officials or government netas and all these people themselves, they get to run whatever, and the children ultimately go for private tutors. So there is no free market of education ever in West Bengal that has been tried. And yet West Bengal completely is now lagging, and this was a state that was known for its education sector, okay? This was a state that had the highest number of literates and all that stuff. Some of the greatest minds of the 20th century came from West Bengal. And yet within 30-40 years of socialist government, you see a complete breakdown of the education system totally under socialists. And now what we have is, we have, as somebody who's taught in some educational institutes, I know that there are students who never passed an exam in their lives, who come to colleges, and just these colleges are degree mills. So basically now you have very highly educated populace who has no education, like who has no knowledge. Again, what happens is, people say, okay, so there are highly educated people, but they don't get jobs because they don't have the skills. Clearly, because these are degree mills. Again, that supports my other point that higher education is not mass education. You can't will everyone to be educated. I may not want to be educated. My child may not want to go into higher education or get a degree. My child may be great at, I don't know, something else. Maybe he's good at farming. But forcing him to go for a degree through Sarva Shiksha Abhijan, forcing him to go to school unnecessarily, it never works. It never works out. That is why you see the literacy rates have gone up, the jobs have gone down, the skills are not there. So it's not like there is a complete lack of jobs also, but the skills are not there. So I remember, and this is my final point before you guys can take over a bit. There was a job mela in West Bengal, okay, by the government. The government had to force companies to buy kisi ko le lo types, okay. So they had I don't know, they had 5,000 jobs ready or something, and only 300 or 400 people got qualified. So there were 5,000 jobs ready and only 500 or 400 people qualified for those jobs because they did not have the skills. So just imagine, this is a high literacy rate wala state with a high population, okay, where there are jobs. They're saying, right, that we're giving you jobs, but they don't have the skills because they went to some sarkari school where they were forced to kind of learn stuff that they don't need and they're not good at, and this just destroys the morale of most people who entered the sarkari. And ultimately, therefore, there's a pseudo privatization through private tuitions and stuff, and horrible system, absolutely. So if you don't want a repeat of what happens to West Bengal, then please let us promote privatization. It might sound like a bad thing, but clearly what we have is way worse right now. So
Now, Ajay, clarify why isn't private education bad? Because what if poor people can't afford education anymore?
Absolutely good point. And also, I just want to add on a little. I mean, it was nice to listening a lot of facts about West Bengal. So West Bengal also has the distinction of the highest number of schools where there is not even a single student enrolled. So today in West Bengal, there are 3,300 schools, government schools, where there is not even one student enrolled. So for these 3,300 schools, they have around 14,700 teachers on payroll. And I'm sure the government teacher payrolls are actually quite high. I don't know what the pay scales there are, but even in states like Andhra Pradesh, sometimes even in like remote village, the headmaster makes up to 80,000, 1 lakh, or even more. And imagine these sort of salaries. Even like an MBA passed out guy in a private school will not really be getting that, and you know how it is. So coming to your question, what happens about the poor? Now, the one of the things, when people talk about private schools is that everybody is only thinking about all these really fancy private schools that city people go to. But even in cities, if you look at where are all the not so well off people going, they're going to these low cost private schools. And low cost private schools are a very underrated phenomena in India. It has like an amazing success story, and these are schools which charge like about 1,000 to maybe 1,500 rupees a month. And in this bracket, they are actually providing much superior education to what the government is spending on it. And now you might ask, like, what if people don't even have that amount of money to go to? Now the thing is, the schools are actually also not free. I mean, you may say that they're free for the people, but somebody is paying. The taxpayer is paying, and the government schools are spending. Uh, in some states, they're almost spending 70,000 rupees per student. So it is going from anywhere from 40 to 75,000 rupees per student they're spending on these kids, and their outcomes are worse than a private school which is charging less than half of what that is. So we are seeing an incredible wastage of taxpayer money. On top of that, we are obviously having all these ghost schools and teachers who don't even go to schools. We know how the situation is there, and even the kids who go to government schools, they put them for some tuition because obviously the school education is not enough. And also sometimes it hypocritically it also happens that the same government school teacher is conducting private tuitions, doesn't teach anything. So the whole thing is a mess. And obviously this the better solution is going to be, I mean, obviously right now from the Libertarian Party, we're not saying tomorrow if the Libertarian Party we are in power, immediately the next step is like just shutting down all the government schools. That is obviously won't make sense because we have destroyed the private capability of this country. So it will take some time to phase it out. So what we are proposing is like a voucher scheme. Now, if the government is spending already an insane amount of money per kid, and the private schools are charging less, give the poor people a voucher which they can go and give it in any school, and that will be redeemable for whatever that amount is. And schools will have to compete. Schools will have to compete. Even these low cost schools will compete for these parents and offer better services. See, if a government school is bad, it just gets more money, and if a private school is bad, it shuts down because
Yeah.
obviously nobody's paying, they can't fund themselves. So this
Yeah.
is our solution to the whole problem, and also why we think the private sector is doing a much better job. Everywhere across India, there's like a lot of studies done on this. Private schools charge less per student and deliver superior performance.
Yeah. तुषार, पेरेंट्स के चॉइस के नजरिए से अगर देखा जाए तो प्राइवेट स्कूल्स क्यों बेटर है? बहुत सारे स्कूल्स का ऑप्शन क्या जरूरी है, या और अगर जरूरी भी है तो वहां पे मतलब कोई आज के दिन में गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में क्यों जा रहा है? म्यूट है क्या तुम्हारा?
You're muted.
हाँ, तो
हाँ।
सिंपल टर्म में बात करें तो सबसे ज्यादा जो वो मतलब कि जो मार्केट कंपटीशन रिलेवेंट करता है इस चीज को कि देयर आर एक ही कैटेगरी में 3, 4, 5 या 10 स्कूल्स compete कर रहे होते हैं, तो पेरेंट्स हैव द ऑप्शन के ये स्कूल बढ़िया नहीं चल रहा, या फिर यहाँ जैसे मान लो टीचर्स ने कुछ गलत काम किया तो पेरेंट्स हैव द ऑप्शन टू पुल आउट देयर किड्स एंड सेंड देम टू द अदर स्कूल्स. तो इससे फिर कंपटीशन बना रहता है एंड दे ट्राई टू compete विद ईच अदर एंड पेरेंट्स नो के ये नहीं तो ये है, ये नहीं तो ये है. मगर गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में तो क्या है कि भाई एक एरिया में एक ही अलॉटेड स्कूल है, उसके बाद आप ये नहीं कर सकते कि भाई नहीं अब मैं उसमें भेजूंगा जो स्कूल जो इतना दूर है. तो ऑप्शंस लिमिट हो जाते हैं और बेसिकली ऑप्शंस की बात है कि ऑप्शंस लिमिट हो जाते हैं, तो इस वजह से आप यू हैव टू रिलाई ऑन वन सर्विस. एंड जब मार्केट कंपटीशन होता है यू हैव सेवरल ऑप्शंस, सो यू डोंट हैव टू कॉम्प्रोमाइज ऑन क्वालिटी एंड देयर आर सेवरल ऑप्शंस के आप इसके पास नहीं तो इसके पास, इसके पास नहीं तो इसके पास, इसके पास नहीं तो इसके पास. एंड मतलब दोनों के इंसेंटिव्स अलाइंड है कि दे वांट टू प्रोवाइड गुड सर्विस एंड यू वांट गुड सर्विस. मगर गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में इंसेंटिव उड़ जाता है कि भाई आपकी परफॉर्मेंस मैटर नहीं करती कि मतलब के परफॉर्मेंस का आपकी परफॉर्मेंस का रिलेशन नहीं है आपके पे स्केल से. जबकि जबकि प्राइवेट स्कूल्स में ऐसा है कि भाई बेकार स्कूल्स है वो दे गेट शट डाउन, और जो schools who gain reputation they can raise their fees क्योंकि there is more demand for them. तो simple demand supply की बात है. Demand supply makes it better for both parents and schools to provide better services and gain more profits. मगर हालांकि ये बात अलग है कि इंडिया में फॉर प्रॉफिट स्कूल्स बहुत कम है, सब मैक्सिमम नॉन प्रॉफिट्स में रजिस्टर करते हैं खुद को. और बेसिकली मार्केट कंपटीशन ही सेविंग ग्रेस रहा है एजुकेशन में. मेरे ख्याल से हम सारे ही प्राइवेट एजुकेटेड हैं. कोई हमारे पेरेंट्स की जनरेशन हो सकता है रही हो गवर्नमेंट एजुकेटेड, मगर ये वाली जनरेशन तो सारी ही प्राइवेटली एजुकेटेड है.
हाँ, तो तुषार, अगर हमारे पेरेंट्स के जनरेशन में इतने सारे बढ़िया सब दिग्गज स्कॉलर हर फील्ड में निकले हैं प्राइवेट स्कूल से, तो प्राइवेट स्कूल में क्या खराब है? ओवरऑल तो आज का एजुकेशन सिस्टम खराब ही है, सब कहते हैं.
समझ नहीं.
तो अगर मतलब जब हमारे सब ग्रेड्स निकल रहे थे, सब बंकिम से लेके 30 साल पहले तक भी सब बिगेस्ट फिल्म डायरेक्टर्स, लॉयर्स सब तो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में ही थे. तो ये सब कैसे, इनका एजुकेशन हुआ कैसे? गवर्नमेंट स्कूल के वजह से जो क्वालिटी ड्रॉप होता है, तब क्वालिटी अच्छा कैसे था?
इसका अच्छा आंसर मेरे पास भी नहीं है वैसे, सही बताऊं तो, क्योंकि थोड़ा उस टाइम एक तो उसका फर्क था. एक तो जैसे ये जो लीनियंसी दिखाई है ना उसमें, जो मार्किंग स्टैंडर्ड्स में है, वो पहले नहीं होती थी. पहले फेलियर रेट बहुत हाई होता था. मतलब कि डर होता था कि भाई हम फेल हो जाएंगे तो हम नेक्स्ट, मगर वो उसको कॉन्स्टेंटली गिराते ही गए हैं. अब तो मेरे ख्याल से ये करते हैं 8 तक आप फेल भी नहीं कर सकते, ऐसे भी कुछ रूल है. और दूसरी चीज ये भी मेरे ख्याल से कि वो भी कम था, मतलब एनरोलमेंट भी इतनी कम थी, तो बच्चे इतने, क्लासेस इतनी बड़ी नहीं होती थी. तो मेरे ख्याल से इसका ज्यादा फैक्टर, ये फैक्टर ज्यादा रेलेवेंट है कि
ऐसे फैमिली से ही स्टूडेंट्स यूजुअली जाते थे जिस फैमिली में बहुत ऑलरेडी एजुकेशन का एक माहौल है. वो एक एडवांटेज.
I can help out a bit in this aspect. So you have to understand that these schools that you think were public schools, government schools, were not actually government schools as you think they are now. What happened is often they were set up by some, somebody, who has a bit of money, some zamindar, some, British officials, somebody. Many times they were set up by zamindars. Okay. Teachers were often recruited from the educated people of the nearby areas and stuff. Itna standardized nahi hota tha. ठीक है. But because they were from nearby areas, they were often, under the pressure to also perform well. Also, they had kind of independent standards of marking and all that stuff. Okay, there was not standardized marking, and government did not come in and one day say, "Acha, you can't fail anyone." Okay, that kind of shit didn't happen back then. So thankfully, because of the lack of government intervention in these so-called schools, these were actually running better. They were producing better results. Then what happened? I can give the example of West Bengal. I don't know rest of India, but I can give what happened in West Bengal is the government took over a lot of these small schools that were in areas. Okay, now these were often run by trusts and or small families or whatever, and they said, I mean, government just started taking over these. Okay. Then what they did was they started transferring teachers, SSC se leke, which meant that the government has entire control over the recruitment process. Then the government did was they standardized results. They were like, you can't fail these many, you have to make these many people pass, you have to get these many marks minimum. So the government started standardizing in that sense. And because what happened is they recruited a lot of people. उसमें तो भाई corruption है ही है, मतलब recruitment process का corruption. Every 2 days you hear some news of school teacher or bureaucrat or somebody's getting the disadvantage due to corruption or advantage due to corruption, basically. So what happened is that because the government took over properly after the 70s and 80s, that these semi-private, semi-whatever autonomous schools or whatever, they actually got taken over completely. And as you remember, you've done a lot of live streams on this. The government banned English, and again, this is the problem of standardized education. That if the government takes one decision, it is implemented everywhere. irrespective of whether you need that policy or not. मतलब Calcutta में English ban करने का कोई logic नहीं था. Let's say you say that there are high dropouts in, let's say, outskirts. Let's say Purulia, you have high dropouts, or some other district you have high dropouts. So वहाँ पे कुछ कर दो. But the government, whenever it pulls out a policy out of its ass, it implements it across the board without a care for what's actually going to, how it's actually going to affect people.
Yeah, and even those government schools who were in fact elite, they were forced to take in any random students all of a sudden. So the good teachers, that few number of good teachers in those few number of schools, they also lost a lot of heart and stopped teaching.
Exactly. So the transfers, again, this is one more thing that the government, this is a story that I've actually heard during my time in the education sector. Nowadays, transferring teachers is a common thing. But this was not the case previously. So transfer means that you have to actually depend on the political party in power or government officials to get transferred. So most of the teachers, they spend time oiling politicians instead of actually teaching in schools. Again, see, this is another issue of standardized government control over the entire education system that creates inefficiency and complete, lack of regard for quality. So I hope I was able to answer that part of your question.
मेरी फैमिली एजुकेशन सिस्टम में काफी इन्वॉल्व है, स्पेसिफिकली गवर्नमेंट एजुकेशन में. मेरे अंकल हैं, वो उसमें ब्लॉक एजुकेशन ऑफिसर भी थे, और मतलब मेरे ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स भी टीचर भी थे. तो उस टाइम वो मतलब जो मेजर मेरे को सुनने को मिलता है वो यही मिलता है कि दे हैड लॉट मोर ऑटोनॉमी एज कंपेयर्ड टू जो ऊपर से जो कंट्रोल आता था नीचे का. तो ये वाली बात सही है.
Ajay, in terms of finding out new ways to teach, innovation in the field of teaching and education, how important is that? Or should we have this one way of teaching kids?
No, I think, again, as we spoke just a little bit earlier, having a standardized approach is always a problem thing. One, I mean, even within schools, sometimes a certain way works for a certain student and sometimes it doesn't. It's not just that there is one system that works for everybody. It's also sometimes, different kinds of kids learn differently. So parents also pick sometimes based on the kid's temperament a different, whether a Waldorf, Montessori, or even boards also based on the preference and the focus. So innovations also happen mostly in private schools because they're always trying to add value to the student, trying to get better outcomes. So innovation is important, but definitely that should not be standardized and say, everybody should follow this way. This is the best way. Some schools are like all about, going into tech, and some say, technology is bad. We prefer a very different way. Some schools don't even have a classroom. It's literally like, they have like a garden and, they have some literally like one of the old Gurukuls things. Now in cities, some of the schools are trying something different. So end of the day, market's always experimenting and trying to figure out what works. So yeah, I think that's the way always.
I have heard, Ajay, one criticism of private schools from pro-private school people that yes, we hate government schools, and if they cease to exist, we don't care. But private schools are wasting a lot of our money as well by holding so many festivals and extracurricular activities and swimming pools, which we don't really want. So we are again left with really no choice in the end. What do you think of that? Are they efficiently using their resources, private schools?
No. I mean, you don't see any schools today teaching you maybe like horse riding, right? But if they're teaching swimming, there is also, it's not that, parents sometimes project also thinking that their preferences pretty much are everything, but it is that schools also see some value in offering that. I mean, very few schools will say, we teach German. Probably not much demand for that. In some places, maybe they have some French, or, nowadays I see some Chinese because obviously they're a bigger economy. So schools also, see, it's not that the school management always knows what's the best thing. And also there is no such thing as the best thing, right? So, why is having a swimming class wrong? Or, maybe festivals, extracurricular, we all had when we were kids, and, obviously we had a lot of fun, even if sometimes we just use it to bunk classes, but it was nice, organizational skills, social skills. So schools are trying, and I think parents sometimes can also be a little bit narrow-minded. And if it's absolutely adding no value, the school also would not be interested in doing those in the longer term. There'll be a correction.
तुषार, प्राइवेट स्कूल्स में ऐसा क्या है कि वो बेटर है और उससे ही बेटर स्टूडेंट्स निकलते हैं? क्या सीक्रेट फॉर्मूला है इनके पास?
मेरे ख्याल से तो करेक्ट फीडबैक ये बेस्ट फॉर्मूला, क्योंकि रेपुटेशन मेंटेन करनी होती है आपको जो कि अब आप अगर आपको जैसे स्कूल रिलीज द नंबर के हमारे वो न्यूज़ पे जैसे जिस दिन रिजल्ट्स आते हैं 10th या 12th के और या फिर जब कोई वो निकल के आता है स्कूल अगर स्कूल का कोई अचीवर बच्चा निकल के आता है तो दे पुट आउट इट इन मीडिया के देखो हमारे स्कूल से ये निकल गया, हमारे स्कूल से ये हुआ, ये हमारे इतने बच्चों ने ये परसेंटेज अचीव करी, हमारे स्कूल से टॉपर निकल के आया। मगर गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में ऐसा कुछ नहीं सुनने को मिलेगा देखो, क्योंकि उनका उनका जो जुड़ा हुआ है ना, देयर फीस इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन देयर परफॉर्मेंस के हाउ मच दे कैन चार्ज डिपेंड्स ऑन हाउ मच डिमांड दे कैन क्रिएट और देयर डिमांड दे कैन क्रिएट इज बाय गिविंग एक्सीलेंट सर्विसेज और बेटर सर्विसेज देन देयर कॉम्पिटिटर्स। मगर गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में ऐसा कुछ है ही नहीं। यू डोंट केयर, आपकी तो सैलरी आती रहेगी, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता कितने बच्चे निकल रहे हैं। बल्कि आपने तो उल्टा कर दिया कि बच्चे फेल नहीं कर रहे, तो यू कीप लोअरिंग द स्टैंडर्ड्स। जैसे मेरे रिलेटिव्स हैं वो भी बताते हैं कि क्लास में डांस कर रहे होते हैं बच्चे, कभी मतलब कि कहते हैं मैं हमें टीचर को कह रहे हैं कि हमें टाइम दो, हमें डांस करना है क्लास में। मतलब कि कुछ ऐसा आपने कभी सुना है किसी प्राइवेट स्कूल में ऐसा हो रहा है कि भाई बच्चे कह रहे हैं कि हमें टाइम दो डांस करने का? और रिलेशन भी थोड़ा अजीब सा ही बना दे, मतलब उसको ना थोड़ा कांग्रेगेशन सेंटर बना दिया उसको स्कूल को, उसकी बजाय कि भाई जो सीरियस डिसिप्लिन होता है कि यू कम टू लर्न हियर, वो उड़ा दिया इसको, बस एक कल्चरल सी एक्टिविटी बना दिया कि तुम आओ यहाँ पे इकट्ठे हो इन आवर्स के लिए और उसके बाद चले जाओ वापस यहाँ से। और अजीब अजीब से जैसे अभी जैसे स्कूल शॉर्टेजेस है तो क्या करते हैं, दो बैचेस, जैसे मेरे को पता नहीं रेस्ट ऑफ द कंट्री में क्या चल रहा है, मगर यहाँ हरियाणा में क्या कर रखा है कि 7 to 12 का 7 to 1 का एक बैच कर रखा और 1 to 5 का एक बैच कर रखा है, ऐसा कुछ कर रखा है।
अच्छा।
तो अब क्या हुआ, अब समर्स आ गई तो फिर अब आफ्टरनून में हॉट होना शुरू हो जाता है, तो सबको इकट्ठे ही बैच में डालना शुरू कर दिया। और बिल्डिंग इतनी बड़ी है नहीं, तो बाहर पढ़ रहे हैं कुछ बच्चे, बाहर पढ़ रहे हैं, बाहर कुछ सुन नहीं रहा, कुछ बच्चे तो क्लास के अंदर पढ़ रहे हैं, सारे गर्मी में है। तो कुल मिला के बात ये है कि मार्केट इंफॉर्मेशन पे ऑपरेट नहीं कर रहे हैं गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स, और प्राइवेट स्कूल्स के पास इंसेंटिव भी है और वो मार्केट इंफॉर्मेशन पे ऑपरेट भी कर रहे हैं। जैसे स्मार्ट क्लासेस थी, स्मार्ट क्लासेस सबसे मतलब प्राइवेट स्कूल्स में मेरे ख्याल से 13-14 में ट्रेंड शुरू हो गया था स्मार्ट क्लास का, जो कि गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में अभी आ रहा है, जो कॉमन हुआ है मेरे ख्याल से 3-4 ईयर्स बैक ही कॉमन हुआ है। तो ये जो सेंट्रलाइजेशन वाली प्रॉब्लम है कि कोई ऊपर बैठा डिसाइड करता है कि नाउ इट्स टाइम टू एलोकेट बजट टू एवरीवन फॉर दिस और नाउ दिस हैज बिकम फैंसी। फिर उसके बाद उसमें जो करप्शन होती है वो बात अलग है। चलो फिर भी मतलब मार्केट कंपटीशन ही बेस्ट एक्सप्लेनेशन है इस चीज की कि व्हाई। और दूसरी चीज ये भी है कि जैसे जिसमें इन जनरल एजुकेशन की थ्योरी में बात करें तो अगर आपने उसका सुना खान एकेडमी का जो फाउंडर है सलमान खान, तो उसने एक वो दी थी टेड टॉक दी थी, तो उसमें ही टॉक्ड अबाउट हाउ डू स्टूडेंट्स एक्चुअली लर्न। तो एजुकेशन लर्निंग बाय नेचर कंपाउंडिंग है कि यू स्टार्ट विद द बेसिक्स देन यू कीप एडिंग थिंग्स। जैसे आपने पहले प्लस माइनस डिवीजन सब्सट्रैक्शन इन चीजों डिवीजन मल्टीप्लिकेशन से शुरू किया, देन यू कीप एडिंग नॉलेज मैथमेटिकल नॉलेज ऑन टू इट। मगर वो फाउंडेशन है, उसके बिना आप आगे कुछ नहीं सीख सकते, और अगर आप कुछ सीख भी रहे हो तो आपको उस पर वापस आना ही पड़ेगा। तो प्रॉब्लम क्या होती है कि जब आप वो इंसेंटिव उड़ा देते हो कि आप तभी नेक्स्ट स्टेज पे जा सकते हो, नेक्स्ट लेवल पे जा सकते हो या नेक्स्ट क्लास में जा सकते हो, जब आपके बेसिक्स इस लेवल के क्लियर हो चुके हैं और आप सीधा उनको शिफ्ट करते जा रहे हो, तो यू आर बर्डनिंग हिम कि भाई आपको 8th क्लास में वो चीज सीखनी ही पड़ेगी जो आप इतने टाइम से अवॉइड कर रहे थे, जो आपको 4th में आनी चाहिए थी। जैसे आप मान लो आपको मल्टीप्लिकेशन डिवीजन 4th क्लास में, इंटीजर्स डेसिमल्स आपको 4th क्लास 5th क्लास में आ जाने चाहिए, क्योंकि उसके ऊपर फिर 6th 7th 8th 9th में आपको और ज्यादा बाइफर्केशन आना शुरू हो जाते हैं और ज्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स ऑपरेशन सीखने होते हैं। तो अगर आप एकदम से आपके ऊपर प्रेशर आ जाए कि भाई आपने इतने साल प्रैक्टिस नहीं करी है और आपको पता ही नहीं क्लास में क्या चल रहा है, और क्लास में तो जो नॉलेज सर्कुलेट होगी वो उसी बेसिस पे होगी ना कि एवरीवन हैज दिस बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग। मगर यहाँ पे तो आप बहुत ही ज्यादा पीछे हो दूसरों से, आपको बहुत ही ज्यादा कैचअप करने की जरूरत है, तब आप कुछ समझ पाओ, आप अंडरस्टैंड कर पाओगे। वो बात तो अलग है कि भाई आप प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर रहे हो, आप अंडरस्टैंड कर पाओगे प्रॉब्लम है क्या। तो एजुकेशन बाय नेचर कंपाउंडिंग है, यू हैव टू लर्न फ्रॉम द स्टार्ट एंड देन कीप बिल्डिंग ऑन इट। और जब आप ये इंसेंटिव उड़ा देते हो कि नहीं आपको सीधा ही हम 8th में डाल देंगे, और 9th क्लास मतलब आप 1st to 9th आप इतने टाइम वेस्ट कर चुके हो, और 9th क्लास में आपको हो सकता है कुछ बच्चे ऐसे भी होंगे 9th क्लास में जाके उनको ABC सीखना शुरू करना पड़े, जबकि बीच बीच में न्यूज रिपोर्ट्स आती रहती हैं कि भाई दे डोंट इवन नो अल्फाबेट्स, दे डोंट इवन नो अक्षर अक्षर ज्ञान भी नहीं उनको, मल्टीप्लिकेशन डिवीजन भी नहीं आती। क्यों? क्योंकि दे जस्ट कीप पासिंग, फेल तो होना ही नहीं। प्राइवेट स्कूल में ऐसा कुछ है नहीं। दे डिमोट यू, उनके पास दे डिमोट यू और दे डोंट प्रमोट यू, क्योंकि उनकी रेपुटेशन खराब हो गई ना कि भाई तुमने फेलियर्स को कैसे आगे आने दिया।
Now, Ajay, if the parents don't really care that their kids are passing without knowing anything, then what is the solution? Because some parents who do care about their the education of their children do send their kids to those bad private schools, really low cost bad private schools who have no affiliation, who have randomly bribed someone and set up a school for themselves, are named after some made up saint. So people are sending to their kids to those schools as well. What about go on.
एक मिनट में थोड़ा इंटरजेक्ट करूंगा, मैं एक पॉइंट मिस कर गया अभी ना। एक अगर आप सर्च करोगे यूट्यूब पे, एक रील आ रही है रविंद्र सहवाग की, तो उसकी फ्री क्रिकेट की एकेडमी है उसकी वहां पे, दिल्ली के पास उसकी क्रिकेट की एकेडमी है झज्जर में। तो उन्होंने एक सिंपल स्टेटमेंट दी कि अर्लियर कि पहले मैं फ्री में चलाता था एकेडमी बच्चों के लिए, गरीब बच्चों के लिए। सो वो या तो आते ही नहीं थे, या आते थे तो सीरियसली नहीं लेते थे प्रैक्टिस को। मगर फिर मैंने एक मिनिमल फीस चार्ज करना शुरू कर दिया कि बेशक मैं 100 रुपीज चार्ज करूं, मगर मैं चार्ज करूंगा। तो उससे क्या होता है कि पेरेंट्स का भी प्रेशर रहता है बच्चे पे कि तेरी फीस भरी है, तेरे को जाके पढ़ना पड़ेगा। दे हैव गॉट स्किन इन द गेम कि भाई ऐसे ही नहीं कि भाई मुफ्त की चीज नहीं मिल रही है, वी हैव सैक्रिफाइसिंग समथिंग फॉर इट। तो ये भी एक चीज प्ले आउट करती है जो कि उसमें प्राइवेट स्कूल में कि व्हेन पेरेंट्स पे प्रीमियम दे एक्सपेक्ट द चिल्ड्रन टू परफॉर्म एज वेल, जबकि गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में ऐसा कुछ नहीं, कर गया तो कर गया, नहीं तो नहीं सही।
Right. Ajay, then is that one of the reasons why parents these days don't care if their children pass through all the classes without knowing anything, because it's free?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, there is no incentive for them to. I mean, if it's free, that they don't care. And also, even see, sometimes even if they really, it's sometimes additionally to that, even if it is not free, some parents are irresponsible parents. Okay, and there is really no solution for that. I mean, we cannot have like a supervisory authority sitting there checking which parent is, being responsible, not responsible. I mean, so some things like that are social problems. I think that has to be done at a society level, like around us. If we see something like that, we have to speak up and convince and talk to them. But beyond that, anybody who cares is obviously very selective about what schools they are, and which is why the best schools actually have insane amount of admission process. There are interviews, they interview parents. It's almost like it's like a whole industry around it. Parents are like so tensed about getting their kids admission to this good school. So that's definitely the market speaking up. And as for those who don't care, that is a social problem that doesn't really have like a government solution to it.
Yeah. What about the poor people now who can't afford anything other than the government schools that they have to send their children to? And what about the middle class and the upper middle class who are already, I hear that they are on the verge of collapsing because of the insane fees of the private schools? What about these two classes?
Yeah, so one thing is when it comes to the poor, definitely the voucher system is going to be a transitionary move for them. I mean, we think in the longer term there will not be a requirement for that as well. But we are a poor society. I mean, we've been impoverished over like 7 decades, so it will take some time for us to move out.
Could you explain the voucher system?
Okay, so voucher system is basically now we look at how much the government is already spending per student, right? So, and obviously, let us say if the government is already spending 60,000 a year on a student or something, instead of that cash, and not exactly the same amount, the actual amount will be much lesser because we will look at what the private schools are doing at a reasonable level. And then we'll say, we'll give you a 25,000 rupees a year voucher, which, I mean, obviously that they can't spend. Otherwise, some people just go drink it up in alcohol. So this has to be redeemed in a school. So they'll take that voucher and give it to the school, and the school can instantly redeem it from the government. So this way, what happens now, schools have to compete. They'll say, we are providing quality, please come to us, and, they'll have to attract them. So we will see a lot of competition between schools trying to attract them. So that would alleviate their stress. And when it comes to middle class also, see, the thing is that, they are complaining that, school fees are going up, but they are also, you're paying for that quality also. See, there are always cheaper options. So from every price point, from 12,000 rupees to 10 lakh rupees, at an increment of 10,000 or 15,000 rupees, there will be an alternative school available. There's no shortage of that. But it is parents who want the best quality, but are not willing to pay the market price for that. So it is human psychology, right? Like, I don't blame them. but they have to understand the market reality that it comes at a cost. Like now, these good schools are also competing for teachers, and on top of that, the other issue that we have to talk about is why are schools also so expensive? Is the amount of infrastructure that is required to set up a school is actually very high. So let us assume you want to start a school, and maybe you don't want to have like a huge cricket ground, or don't even want to have a huge sports ground. You say, I'm going to
Yeah.
provide quality education. Kids want to play sports and all. Let them figure it out at their own level. It's not so important according to my model. I teach them math, physics, science. I just need a bunch of rooms. I'll set up a school and I'll run it. The government won't agree. The government has made it so difficult and so expensive to set up a school. At one point of time, even I was thinking, maybe set up a school and teach more libertarianism to kids. But the regulatory nightmare is just absolutely crazy. It increases the capital cost. So I can't do it. And once, let us assume I do all of that, then I obviously have to take it, make that money back from the parents. And expenditure is going on. On top of that, the government says one, schools cannot be for profit. All schools make profit. What they do is they set up one non-profit and then set up a private company, and they do a little bit of accounting mix-ups to divert the cash out of the company. I mean, which is fine. That's how it should be. But why is the government even doing that? You're just increasing compliance costs. You're making it crores and crores, and so that is also the reason that earlier was spoken about, like how the capture in West Bengal has all been done by politicians. It's not just colleges, even in schools also. If you look at it, most of them are by like politicians or people who own like huge land banks, and they were the ones who were actually able to set up schools and colleges, and they benefit from it. So if the government deregulates that, maybe if I've set up a small school in my apartment, if it's not adding value, nobody will come. But if it's adding value, then a lot of parents will send. Let the market compete. Overall, we have already seen how low-cost schools have done a fantastic job in this country in educating. Most of the kids today are in private schools more than the government schools, and year by year, in almost every state, with the exception of one or two states, the enrollment is actually dropping. The percentage is going down year, even in a state like Kerala, right? So Kerala has some of the best government-run schools and things like that. Even there, people are switching to private schools because if you have like level X of quality in a state, considering that society, the private school will always be X plus some percent because you're drawing your talent pool from the same society. So
now, what do you think of the right to education? How much is that hampering founding of new schools?
absolutely. I mean, so imagine you set up a really fancy private school right in the center of the city. You have a huge ground, you have a swimming pool, everything. And now the government will give you some pathetic amount of money and say 25% of your kids you have to reserve to it. So now what do? I am going to recover it from the rest of the students. So then, it's not like the government is going to pay like premium school fees or anything. They'll have their own number. And they actually don't even do that based on how much they're actually spending. They have a very arbitrary value. So obviously schools will be unhappy and they will cross subsidize that student by hiking up fees for the other kids. So RTE actually, I think, was a nightmare. And also I think there's a very brilliant thing that I always thought about the RTE. So everybody, all the socialists and everybody says, education should not be for profit. In fact, private sector is ruining it. Government is running it. There is no shortage of the amount of money that the government is spending, right? So the government has like literally as much as tax money of yours that it can spend. And it has been running government schools. Now, why do you want RTE in a private school if the government is doing a good job? So basically, the government has said, we are not capable of running schools. So it is not a capitalist or a libertarian argument. The government itself has conceded, we are useless, we are incapable, we can't run schools, nobody wants to come to our schools. So you guys only educate the kids. That's also your responsibility. So how does it make sense? So just get rid of the whole damn, government schools. Let the private sector handle it, and of course scrap the RTE, because RTE also comes with a lot of other challenges. One which is not just about putting kids in these schools where you're cross subsidizing, but it is also discriminatory because the restrictions on, for example, if you're a Hindu and you want to start a Hindu religious school, you cannot benefit from saying I want to be exempt from RT. That is only applicable to minorities. So obviously, anybody, if you are a Hindu, you are from the majority community, you will say, why am I being discriminated again? Like, I want to do it, then why can't I run my education as freely as somebody else? So it is also, again, another point of thing which is, again, creating more rifts in the society. That apart from an education point of view, RT has acknowledged that the government has failed. If you've acknowledged you have failed, just get out of it. Just acknowledge it and say private sector is doing a good job. Be quiet and let's move on.
Yeah, Ajay, I'll come back to you now. Yeah, go on, Tushar.
अमेरिका में इसमें कंपैरेटिव स्टडी हो चुकी है कि पब्लिकली फंडेड स्कूल वर्सेस वाउचर सिस्टम वाले स्कूल्स, एंड वाउचर सिस्टम वाले schools are outperforming publicly funded schools, and they are even competitive to private schools. तो क्योंकि सिंपल मैकेनिज्म है कि मार्केट वो कंज्यूमर चॉइस वाला एलिमेंट आ रहा है उसमें कि if you don't perform well, we'll shift our vouchers to some other school.
Yeah. Ajay, I'll come back to you to ask why it might be great for teachers as well, why teachers' salaries are actually increased with education privatization. But first, I'll ask AcademicMan, what's been your experience with teachers' unions? Will teachers actually support the policy of privatizing education?
Of course not, because it means that you have to work for a living. So nobody likes to do that. You like free money if you attend school for once a month or maybe 2-3 times a month and you get paid. Okay, I've been itching to correct Ajay on one thing. West Bengal has the lowest government salaries in the country. Okay, so this is what socialist utopia looks like. So not only do you have excessive government control over all aspects of your life, but you also have the lowest paisa when it comes to the government actually paying you. So the government, so what you said, headmaster gets paid in Andhra Pradesh, 80K, is the salary of an assistant professor in West Bengal now. Like this is now. Okay. Yeah. So, and matlab maybe 10 years, not 10 years even, 7 years ago, assistant professor salaries were around 40,000. And I can tell you higher education and lower matlab school and all 20, 30, 25,000 ऐसे salaries थे. So basically in West Bengal you get best of both worlds. The teachers are poor, the students are poorer. So that is the reality of West Bengal. Okay. Now I'll come to a few things because you guys mentioned RTE, which is very interesting because the one school that people are dying to get into in West Bengal is called Ramakrishna Mission. It's in Narendrapur. Ramakrishna Mission runs these schools. It is a private school. It is people, they have this whole merit-based this thing, the intake, right? So there are these exams and people prepare for months and years for that
and
exam.
It's insanely tough to get into those schools. I knew one guy who just killed himself 2 years back. He used to live in the flat I lived in because he couldn't get into Ramakrishna Mission in class 11. He was under
so I don't need to emphasize on how like crazy the competition is to get into Ramakrishna Mission. Now, why is this school so awesome? Firstly, it is totally run privately. The hiring policies are private. The teaching policies are private. The fees may not be so high. So again, this is the fun thing that I was going to say. The people who say that the private means insane fees, that is not true. Okay. Like even Ramakrishna Mission Chodo, that's there, but Ramakrishna Mission particularly, I'm interested in saying that thing. Why? Because Ramakrishna Mission once tried to declare itself a minority, institution.
Just so that they could run this school.
Yeah, so that they could get the RTE benefits, the benefits of being a minority. Okay. Yeah. Then the Supreme Court and High Court declared that Ramakrishna Missions, cannot, because it's a part of the Hindu faith, it cannot declare itself minority. So the problem here, as you can see, is that even as you mentioned, that if a Hindu organization does want to open a school, which is the fees are not that high and all that stuff, even then you do not have the possibility of doing it due to government control. Or fir bhi, even after all these issues and all these problems, the craze is to get into Ramakrishna Mission. There is no such craze for any government school in West Bengal. In fact, if any child gets into Ramakrishna Mission school, it is assumed that that child will have a good career and everything. So that is how awesome these schools are. Xavier's, Ramakrishna Mission, all these. Like, if you look at most of the top private education institutes in West Bengal, all of them are education institutes. All of them are private, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's no government equivalent of any of these schools. And I can tell you one small story before you guys can take it back. So there was this auto rickshaw wala, okay. And one day I was chatting with him, and he said that he wanted to send his daughter to a private school. So he said, I work very hard. I work all day to send her to private. So I was like, there's free government school. Why don't you send her there? And he's like, yeah, I want her to be suck. I don't want her to be a auto wala or a maid like my, my wife, or I'm an auto wala. I don't want my children to be an auto wala. So I was like, okay, so basically you work your ass off, despite there being free government schools with open seats, jahan pe high dropout rates. So there your child can easily get enrolled there. But you would rather than doing that, you would spend your whole day working hard and sending your child to even if it's a crappy private school, you'll send her to that, right? So that is where my eyes were opened. And then I realized, when I actually studied the data and stuff, that West Bengal, as you mentioned, has the highest number of ghost schools, all the stuff we just discussed. West Bengal is the perfect example of what not to do with a good education system.
Yeah. Bhargava Didi, we will take all your super chat questions, and Aditya will take yours as well. So yeah, Ajay, how might private education impact teacher salaries?
I think private sector schools actually do pay their teachers quite well, and there's always competition for good teachers. So again, very market related. The schools which are actually in high demand, the teachers also have a little bit of ability to ask for more money, and the best teachers are quite expensive. And even this is not just even at the schooling level, at the intermediate level also, actually this happens. That there it is actually much more brutal, because there are people who charge insane amount of money because they teach or prepare for competitive exams. So yeah, I think private sector, one, it is also expanding the number of teachers that today we have, is largely because the private sector has grown actually really well. So, and there's scope for talent to grow, for them to actually make more money if they're good teachers. So overall, a good thing.
Is quality control of government schools possible by spending more on them?
No, because end of the day, it is like, why would anybody actually take responsibility? If in a private school, if the quality drops, people leave and the school shuts down. And it is possible in a few instances that there is somebody who's like really dedicated. So this actually happened. One of the reasons which you guys spoke about, post-independence, when you had all these government schools, they used to attract some really dedicated people from the community, because these people also were the ones who had educated even before independence, right? Where only very few number of people used to go to school. So they were really dedicated, motivated, and it was also a very cultural thing that, teaching, they had this sort of a society respect in their village, and also they would actually work hard to educate it because they took pride in their work. So maybe if you are lucky enough to find something like that, yes, but it's not a scalable model, right? So it's not a replicable model. Like how we have, for example, one or two government institutes which actually produce good work despite being a government institute. For example, ISRO. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can scale that to everything. Sometimes you're lucky because of some great, talented, some really hardworking people, but you can't build that. How do you select for these people? So overall, quality control in schools, to some extent, you can try. But overall, the effort to reward ratio is absolutely not worth it. And especially in a country like India, and the government has already acknowledged that they can't do it. So let's take it to this natural conclusion and finish this government school once and for all.
Now, what about doing oversight? What about hiring an administrator, and then he will make sure that government schools work great?
What we already have administrators who are like, I don't know what they're called, the DEO or something, and these people go to schools every month, right? And so even those people literally just take some bribes, or only when they go they make some. See, we already have the administrative oversight, and the quality has not improved and nothing has changed. So how many more levels of oversight will we keep adding on top of that? Whoever will come, just take some bribes.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry to interject, but I was so tempted to just walk in there. I'll tell you how this overseer thing works. Okay, so एक है NAC. I don't know how the school thing. The school thing is more localized. So NAC is this thing, the organization by the government that goes to check every higher education institute in India. Okay, so the NAC sends 2-3 professors or teachers from some other state to a different state to check it out. Okay, now I'll tell you what happens. Before they come, 6 months before they come, the college gets to know, there's a government college, gets to know that they are going to come. Okay,
Yeah.
so they prepare. Suddenly they have all these fake data. Okay, I don't know how, I can't tell you how I know, but I can tell you that I know. Okay,
Yeah.
so there are all these students who never did, who never exist, or whatever, or they did exist and they did extra classes, and there are these awesome results and all this stuff and sports activities, and suddenly out of nowhere all these things come out. Okay, and fit the NAC people come and they are treated to good food, and they are sent to a good hotel, and they kind of come one day and they just check it out. Oh, acha, this okay, nice walls, nice teachers, all the teachers look good and stuff. Oh, there are a few students. Oh, okay, then A++. That is exactly how the government this thing works, oversight thing works. And then people wonder that why we have higher educated people and there is no, so there is no solution to this. Even if, let's say, the NAC team were to suddenly appear out of nowhere, I can guarantee you the members would be corrupt most of the time. This is already the case, by the way. The authorities are often always corrupt. And you can't, like, let's say a minister's guy is running a school, okay, and then somebody shows up and says that, oh, okay, this school is horrible or college is horrible, and you think there are any action to be taken against a minister or a bureaucrat or a powerful lobbyist or a union leader. At most, a guy can be transferred, a principal or somebody will be transferred, and then another principal will come, and that it will be the same story. There's no end to this. Okay, this is just a never-ending, like a well of mediocrity and kind of almost khatam hone wala hai. Okay, that
Ajay, what's this socialist nonsense of transferring people? Because if someone is corrupt or bad at their job, why do they get sent to someone to destroy someone else's lives? What the fuck is transferring?
Yeah, so I mean, this is insanely crazy, and this is very typical because the unions have basically taken over control, and in the government, it is very difficult to fire anybody, and it's not just in schools; it's the same with judges, police officers, bureaucrats. The moment they do something, it is like transfer. So yes, it is an absolute bullshit concept. And you would think that something like this, obviously, in the more developed countries, maybe this would not be there. So in US also they have this exact same thing, and there are cases where actually teachers have been accused of improper behavior with pupils of a sexual nature, and still they found it so difficult to fire these people. They even have a word for this. It is called dance of the lemons. So they actually are in the US. So again, this is exactly the problem. When government runs it, immediately it gets captured by these government employees who are a very powerful lobbying class. Today, if you want to get rid of even some of the political parties, everybody is afraid to touch education because these headmasters and these teachers in villages are the ones who have influence on their community to influence their voting patterns. So they're very afraid. Politicians are very afraid to go and mess with them. Even if the school is empty, they will not shut it down. They'll be like, let it run. Anyway, it's not like the politician is paying the salary. So these people are also very powerful lobby, and obviously they must be that must be addressed. Otherwise, we are wasting a lot of taxpayer money. And also, like these poor kids who are going to government schools, they deserve better education. I mean, I agree that everybody should have access to the best education possible, and I believe that the market forces are the way to go ahead. And this transfer system, inefficient schools, so it's very disgraceful. It's keeping our country backward.
Tushar, tell me what you think of this comment. I think the problem is misdiagnosed. The issue isn't that the school is government run, it's the government monopoly in the affordable education segment. As income levels go up, this segment will become competitive and better. Do you think it will?
आप इसको किसी भी तरीके से एड्रेस कर सकते हो. मेरा जो पर्सनल ओपिनियन है वो तो ये है कि आपको पहले बेसिक्स पे जाने की जरूरत है कि आपको लिटरेसी चाहिए या आपको एजुकेशन चाहिए, क्योंकि दो अलग अलग ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हैं. एजुकेशन इज डिफरेंट, लिटरेसी इज डिफरेंट. लिटरेसी इज इम्पोर्टेंट, एजुकेशन इज ऑप्शनल. ठीक है, तो आप लिटरेसी पे फोकस करते हो और फिर आप उसमें कहते हो कि लो कॉस्ट अफोर्डेबिलिटी होनी चाहिए लिटरेसी की, तो हाँ वो होनी चाहिए. क्यों? मतलब कि दैट इज एन इन्वेस्टमेंट. मतलब कि सपोज चलो हम ठीक है हम एक सोशलिस्ट सिस्टम में ऑपरेट कर रहे हैं, तो इट इज गुड टू इन्वेस्ट इन द ह्यूमन कैपिटल. हाँ ठीक है, लिटरेसी के लिए वो ठीक है. मगर अगर आप बात करते हो कि हमें एजुकेशन की जरूरत है, कि भाई हम एक फालतू की ह्यूमैनिटीज की डिग्री फंड कर रहे हैं, हम जिन बच्चों को पास होना ही नहीं चाहिए उनको भी पास करा रहे हैं, या पास नहीं हो रहे तो फिर हम उनको फिर भी उनकी फीस देते जा रहे हैं. तो वो दो अलग अलग ऑब्जेक्टिव हैं. और लिटरेसी के बेनिफिट्स हैं क्योंकि उसके बाद आप खुद से सीख सकते हो, क्योंकि अब एजुकेशन ऑलमोस्ट जीरो कॉस्ट, मतलब इन्फॉर्मेशन की कॉस्ट ऑलमोस्ट जीरो हो चुकी है. इट्स एज चीप एज योर इंटरनेट पैक. यूट्यूब होगा, ऑल दीज फ्री कोर्सेज, दे आर प्रोवाइडिंग इंफॉर्मेशन एट ऑलमोस्ट जीरो कॉस्ट. और जैसे ये भी प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स भी निकल गए. जैसे अगर सिंपल रीसेंट एग्जांपल लें एडटेक सेक्टर में, तो फर्स्ट बायजूस केम, they were selling courses for almost lakhs. then तब फिर उसके बाद फिर वो फिजिक्स वाला आ गया. He drastically dropped down the prices and destroyed the Byju's whole business model. और while Byju's चार्ज करा कुछ लाख, फिजिक्स वाला dropped it down to कुछ thousands. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि हर बार कि प्राइसेस बढ़ते ही जाएंगे. When new technologies come in, that cost reduces. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि गवर्नमेंट ऑलवेज हैज टू फुट द बिल फॉर दिस. और मैं बता रहा हूँ कि आपको ना थोड़ा अलग तरीके से देखने की जरूरत है कि व्हाई डू यू नीड टू गेट एजुकेटेड. तो पॉइंट तो ये है कि भाई आपका पॉइंट ऑफ एजुकेशन इज टू गेट एम्प्लॉयड. और क्लर्क वाला सिस्टम तो जा चुका है. अब हम सोशलिस्ट इकोनॉमी में तो रहने रहे कि आपका, या फिर कॉलोनियल टाइम में तो रहने रहे कि आप ब्रिटिश क्लर्क लगोगे, तो वो वाला सिस्टम तो है नहीं. तो किसको डिजाइन करने के लिए बनाया? ये अपनी इतना जनरलिस्ट सिस्टम बना क्यों रखे कि भाई जिस स्टूडेंट के लिए रेलेवेंट ना ही उसका एप्टीट्यूड है ना ही उसके लिए रेलेवेंट है, तो उसके लिए आप उतना टाइम वेस्ट क्यों करवाते हो उन सब्जेक्ट्स में जिसका उसको फ्यूचर में कोई बेनिफिट ही नहीं है. आपको नेचुरली ही आप वो कर रहे हो. फिर वही है ना कि ये इनएडमिनिस्ट्रेबल है, क्योंकि इसमें काफी ज्यादा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव मशीनरी चाहिए. अगर आपको हर स्टूडेंट के अकॉर्डिंग आपको अगर करिकुलम डिजाइन करना है, तो वो तो अब ये जो हम सेंट्रलाइजर्स हैं वो कर नहीं सकते. तो दे गो फॉर सिंपल थिंग्स दैट दे कैन एडमिनिस्टर, एंड एज की उनकी कन्वीनियंस के लिए उन्होंने सिस्टम बनाया है. और जैसे 11th 12th में बच्चे स्कूल जाना छोड़ देते हैं, दे गो फॉर देयर कोचिंग एंड गेट एडमिटेड इन डमी स्कूल्स. क्यों? क्योंकि एक तो कोचिंग मेक्स यू बेटर एट क्रैकिंग द एग्जाम्स, जो कि गवर्नमेंट ने ही क्रिएट किया है वो एग्जाम वाला सिस्टम. ठीक है, उसके बाद फिर तुम कहते हो कि यू शुड अटेंड द स्कूल एज वेल, जहां पे आप अपना टाइम वेस्ट, बच्चे अपना टाइम वेस्ट कर रहे हैं. तो गवर्नमेंट बाय लॉ बच्चों को टाइम वेस्ट करवा रही है ताकि कुछ वेग ऑब्जेक्टिव्स अचीव हो सके जो कि अनक्लियर है. उनको तो कुछ फर्क पड़ता नहीं, वो तो अपने पहुंच चुके हैं टॉप पे. बच्चों को टाइम वेस्ट कराना तुमने. और उसके बाद फिर बच्चों पे ये कि भाई कहीं मेरा रिजेक्ट ना हो जाए, कहीं मेरा ये ना हो जाए, वो हो जाए. उनको एकदम से मतलब कि एकदम से उनको बुला लेंगे कि जैसे सर बता रहे थे कि फ्लाइंग आ जाती है एकदम से, वो चेक करना शुरू कर देती है कि बच्चे हैं भी कि नहीं यहाँ पे. मतलब स्टूपिड लॉज क्रिएट कर देते हो और उसके बाद फिर आप उसको एडमिनिस्टर करने की कोशिश करते हो जो इनएडमिनिस्ट्रेबल है. तो ये सारा क्लाउन सर्कस जो क्रिएट हुआ है वो सारी इसी वजह से हुआ है, क्योंकि डिजाइन स्टूडेंट्स की कन्वीनियंस या मार्केट की कन्वीनियंस के लिए नहीं हुआ है सिस्टम, वो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स की कन्वीनियंस के लिए हुआ है. कि भाई जैसे अब टीचर फायरिंग वाली बात है, टीचर फायरिंग इतना डिफिकल्ट एक एस्पेक्ट ये भी है क्योंकि इट इज रियली हार्ड टू कंडक्ट अ हायरिंग प्रोसेस. इट इज वेरी एक्सपेंसिव एंड इट टेक्स अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम. और उसके बाद फिर इफ यू गेट रिड ऑफ वन, यू हैव टू स्टार्ट द होल प्रोसेस अगेन. तो और फिर देन यू हैव टू ट्रेन देम टू बिकम गुड. तो वो तो सारा सिस्टम इतना ज्यादा मेस्ड अप हो जाता है अगर आप उसमें सेंट्रल प्लानिंग वाले उसमें सिस्टम में ऑपरेट करना शुरू कर दो. तो ये काफी सारे नॉट्स जुड़े हुए हैं इससे. मगर अगर आपको एक सिंपल चीज करने की, दैट मेक्स इट ऑल वर्थ इट, के मेक इट रेलेवेंट फॉर एम्प्लॉयमेंट, के इंडस्ट्री की इन्वॉल्वमेंट रखो. कि जैसे जिस एरिया से भी आप हो वहाँ पे जो इंडस्ट्री स्पेशलाइज करती है वो आपके करिकुलम की डेवलपमेंट में हेल्प करें, ताकि एज सुन एज द स्टूडेंट गेट्स a certification, so he is ready for employment, market employment. मगर यहाँ पे तो कुछ है ही नहीं. यहाँ पे 12th तक आपका टाइम वेस्ट होता है, उसके बाद कॉलेज में 4 साल वेस्ट होते हैं, फिर आप मास्टर्स में जाके सोचते हो कि मेरे को करना क्या है. और मतलब आपने इतना मतलब कि आपने 22 इयर्स का ह्यूमन, मतलब कि चलो चलो तब से छोड़ो, तो मान लो 16 से लगा देता कि 16 से पर्सन कैन रिलेटिवली ऑपरेट इन द मार्केट, तो 16 से लेकर 22 तक आपने टाइम 6 इयर्स आपने वेस्ट किए हैं मिलियंस ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स के, मिलियंस एंड मिलियंस ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स के आपने 6 इयर्स वेस्ट किए हैं, और मार्केट को आपने यू हैव डिप्राइव्ड द मार्केट ऑफ देयर स्किल सेट एंड अपॉर्चुनिटी टू ट्रेन देम। और फिर उसके बाद फिर उसके इससे जुड़ा हुआ एस्पेक्ट है मिनिमम वेज लगा दे तो फिर आप लो स्किल वालों को हायर नहीं कर सकते, चलो वो तो सेपरेट चीज होगी, मगर फिर मतलब आपने इतने सारे ऑब्स्टिकल्स क्रिएट कर दिए हैं। यू हैव क्रिएटेड अ क्यूरियस कंट्री जहां पे लेबर शॉर्टेज भी है और लेबर सरप्लस भी है।
Yeah. So I just wanted to answer that question. I think the person asking the question said that it is not that the government is running schools, but it is that it's the government monopoly in the affordable education segment. That actually is not true. So what is called as the affordable public schools, most of them, I mean, by definitionally, where the school fees is less than 500 rupees a month. So these are called the affordable public school segment. And today in India, we have anywhere between 400,000 to 500,000 of those schools in the country, and they educate close to some 80 to 90 million kids, and that constitutes almost 40 to 50% of all the kids in the country are being educated by the affordable public schools. So it is not that the government has a monopoly. The private sector has been doing a fantastic job. It is largely because the discussion, whenever we talk about private schooling, we always talk about it from a very urban perspective, and we talk about the high-end schools. You literally will see like little shacks at the end of the road in most of the cities where there are a bunch of little kids going. I mean, till a very lower grades, because beyond that, the government will say you're not recognized and create all sorts of trouble. My brother actually taught in one in Pune for a couple of years. He did a stint with this organization called Teach for India. So it was literally, I went there and it was literally like a tin shed, and they were charging a couple of ₹100 per month. And these were affordable public schools, and they are quite, they educate quite a number of people in the country.
Ajay, this is a follow-up for your comment. Ultra affordable segment ही बोल लो.
I mean, see, if you're saying less than 500 rupees a month, then I mean maybe it's slightly affordable, but it is quite affordable. But beyond that, like,
वैसे अगर इकोनॉमिक्स का भी कंपैरिजन करें, हाउ मच अफोर्डेबिलिटी कैलकुलेशन कैसे होती है? अफोर्डेबिलिटी कैलकुलेशन इस बेसिस पे होगा ना कि मैं इतना इन्वेस्ट करूंगा तो इतना रिटर्न निकल के आएगा इसमें से, इस बेसिस पे आपको कैलकुलेट होता है कि हाउ डू, क्योंकि वैल्यू सब्जेक्टिव होती है ना कि भाई हाउ डू हम लेबर थ्योरी वैल्यू पे ऑपरेट कर नहीं रहे क्योंकि दैट्स फेक, हम सब्जेक्टिव थ्योरी वैल्यू पे ऑपरेट कर रहे हैं कि भाई वैल्यू ऑफ थिंग इज डिसाइडेड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ व्हाट विल आई गेट इन रिटर्न ऑफ द मनी दैट आई पुट इन। तो एजुकेशन अगर आप इफ यू स्पेंड 2 years or 3 years in a particular school और आप एक्सपेक्ट करते हो कि इसके बाद आई विल गेट अ जॉब ऑफ, suppose if you have to spend 30 lakh to get a job of 3 crore, so is it a big investment?
Exactly.
तो आपको वही सोचने की जरूरत है कि आउटकम्स में सोचने की जरूरत है कि अफोर्डेबिलिटी उससे डिटरमिन नहीं होती कि भाई हाउ मच द स्कूल इज चार्जिंग, अफोर्डेबिलिटी उससे डिटरमिन होती है कि हाउ मच will he be able to recover after he has gone through the process.
Ajay, I had to ask you something. Tushar said faltu ki humanities degree. Do you agree that there are some faltu ki humanities degrees, or because I have argued this extensively with some of my commie friends and they say who decides if it's faltu or not? Why?
I mean, no, again, definitely it's like, see, it's a personal opinion. I might believe that a lot of them are faltu, and as long as I'm not paying for it, go do your African dancing, go do it. But if you're using government money and you want to do PhD and then do all sort of drama in college, one, I'm paying for it, and then you're also it so happens that most of these humanities students are also usually end up, I mean, it is a bit of a generalization, end up in government funded colleges, spend years and years there, don't produce anything of value. On top of that, advocate for politics of leeching. That sort of is the reason why, Tushar, all of us make these, jokes about humanities degrees. And, you are in West Bengal, so I don't have to tell you, I mean, your state is expert in this. So we know what's happening there. And first of all, first thing, more than schools, government should get rid of every single higher education. And this is something that, a lot of people say Nehru did IIT, Nehru did this and all. It was absolute nonsense. In fact, if you had considered that amount would have been better spent at a more primary level, considering that if the government had to spend that money better at a primary level, what happened to all these IIT guys? Now you all these in 60s, 70s, everybody, most of them left to the US and also your tax money. It is saying, oh, IIT is great for the country, reputation and all those guys are going and working in the US. Dude, you go pay your fees, whatever it costs, and then go wherever you want. Why should the taxpayer? Why should I subsidize? And more importantly, why the poor farmer or a poor guy in a village who can't afford to send his kid to a private school, tax money from him is used to send some guy in IIT so he can go to the US? Absolute nonsense. That was a mistake. And right now, need of the hour, get rid of all these higher education colleges, privatize them, make them autonomous, strip their excess land banks because they have sitting on like 5 to 10 acres of land in prime areas, so these guys can roam around and do all that. Get rid of the higher education totally at a super, at the college level. Privatize it. Then after that, we need to reform the government schools by shifting to the voucher system. Yeah.
What about the remittances though? Okay, everyone wants to jump into this topic.
एक थोड़ा मैं डिस्क्लेमर देना चाहूंगा कि मेरी डिग्री भी ह्यूमैनिटीज में ही है.
Okay.
So I'm not. I have seen the system, so I can comment on it. It's not like
exactly. All three of us are commenting for those reasons only.
Hey,
it's not that.
Please finish and then I'll make a point. Yeah.
No, I mean, there is definitely some value in things like philosophy and even everything right now today when we discuss political science. There is obviously a lot of it that has to do with humanities. There's nothing wrong in it. It is just that it is so. Most of these curriculums have also been so hijacked by a lot of Marxist, stuff. It's just crazy. But humanities has value. It is just what is pimped today in colleges is absolutely a useless thing for the most part.
Mostly they are about IES की तैयारी करनी. That's ये scam चल रहा है कि अपना आर्ट्स की ह्यूमैनिटीज की डिग्री लो और सिविल्स की तैयारी करो. This is the entire project के अच्छा बेसिक एसोसिएशन किसी से बताओ कि भाई आर्ट्स कर रहा हूँ, अच्छा आईएएस की तैयारी करनी है, इस वजह से ले रहे हो ना. So it's basically a waste of time. और जैसे थॉमस सोले सेड के it's mostly about taking a break from reality and living in a fantasy. So humanities education is all about this. You are taking a break from reality, chilling out with your buddies, doing absolutely nothing, bunking classes, and आपका कुछ output, productive output तो आपका कुछ होता नहीं. So there is no need for subsidizing. Also, there is no need for subsidizing any education, but specifically humanities education needs no subsidy.
Yeah, AcademicMan.
I was going to make a kind of left-leaning point, if I must say, but which will support our argument. So, so let's say I take some elite institutes in West Bengal or India. Okay, let's say I take Presidency College and Jadavpur University, and let's say I take St. Stephen's College. Okay, keep in mind, none of these colleges and universities were formed as public universities. Okay, they started off as private. Okay, and then they catered to some of the most elite people in the country. St. Stephen's, Presidency used to be called Hindu College back then. Jadavpur University, all of this. The people who originally attended these schools are only as good as the alumni, right? So basically what happened is because these private schools were doing so well that their alumni and all were turned out to be all great people who Nobel Prize वगैरह ये सब मिल गया and all that stuff. So what's happening is that when the government takes over these institutes, so what happens is the government keeps Presidency and Jadavpur's brand okay. Maybe I'm assuming Jadavpur and Presidency are running really well, which they aren't, but I'm assuming they are running well. St. Stephen's is running quite well. Okay. I'm assuming that. But what Bourdieu would say, Pierre Bourdieu, the sociologist, would say is that these schools will never be replaced by newer government crappier schools. मतलब elite institution elite ही रहेगा. And the people who attend them will keep, there will be an elite class of people who will keep attending them because somewhere there is a kind of meritocracy even there, whether we like it or not, whether leftists like it or not. Let's say you have to qualify for an IIT. Again, some IITs were also older institutes, older colleges, which were later on converted to government institutes, and then a lot of funding, crores and crores of rupees were given. So what happens is that when these institutes were formed, the best students would get in, and that thing has remained. Some of the top institutes, only the best people go. Who are the best people? Those who can afford private schooling from the best schools in the country. Again, what happens is this means that we are funding a kind of caste system in education, jahan pe people are coming from rich families, they are going to government funded institutes which are elite, but which are elite because they were originally private, and then the people coming out of here usually go abroad, and then the same thing that Ajay said, that because my taxes are funding a guy who's going to become the citizen of America and work there. So it makes no sense for us to fund this one way, maybe less than 1% people who go to these schools, and the government then shows that this school and college works really well, so therefore we must keep it running on our terms with corruption and whatnot, because 5 colleges or 10 colleges in the whole country run really well, but 10,000 don't, or 1 lakh don't. So that it kind of creates this again wealth gap stuff, which I'm just saying this because I'm making a kind of Marxist point against this whole existing system again all over.
Ajay, what about remittances though? Aren't therefore those IITs justified? Because those remittances help pay for the free stuff that the farmer gets.
But most of the remittances, if you actually look at it, they're not even taxed, because even back then we needed a lot of foreign exchange. So very little of that was taxed. And the thing is, that is like a very roundabout way of like saying, these guys may, and we don't even know, they may or they might not. But why should the taxpayer first be forced to pay for it? Let them pay for it from their own pockets. I think that's not really much of an argument. Yeah.
We have a funny comment here. I call dibs on the broadcast rights to LPI trying to explain ROI to a West Bengal illiterate farmer who is used to their freebies or their pensions and stuff.
I think this is an underplaying of what you think that farmers don't know or know. Okay, the mandi system, for example, is actually not supported by most farmers all over the country. Okay,
Absolutely.
so a farmer actually knows that if I sell my crops or whatever at a higher rate to a private player, there is a higher chance of me earning more. So I don't think that this kind of argument, you think that they're dumb, but they're not actually that dumb. Like, that's what I'm trying to say.
और एक clarity और देना चाहूँगा कि it isn't like कि we are saying कि day one we are getting rid of all the freebies. We are saying that
phase out ही तो करना है.
मतलब कि you make them irrelevant. We are focused on making them irrelevant कि आपको जरूरत ही नहीं है उनकी.
Right.
It's not like we are. People have a lot of confusion that के libertarians won't succeed because के वो आएंगे और सब कुछ छीन लेंगे. हम ऐसा कुछ प्रमोट नहीं कर रहे. हमारा आइडिया है कि आपको समझने की जरूरत है कि पॉलिटिशियंस जो डिजाइन करते हैं स्कीम, वो इस बेसिस पे करते हैं कि हमारा बेनिफिट कैसे निकालेगा, मतलब उनका पर्सनल बेनिफिट कहाँ से निकल के आएगा, उस बेसिस पे डिजाइन होता है कि पॉलिटिकल क्लास का बेनिफिट निकल के कैसे आएगा, उस बेसिस पे वो डिजाइन करते हैं स्कीम. हमारे से कोई इंटेंशन नहीं है, क्योंकि हमारा पॉलिटिशियन बनने में कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. हमारा पॉइंट ये कि हाउ डू वी अचीव द ऑब्जेक्टिव्स दैट वी आर सेट फॉर आवरसेल्व्स. तो उस हिसाब से पॉलिसी डिजाइन होती है. उसमें गवर्नमेंट का कितना इन्वॉल्वमेंट रखना है वो हमारे लिए इररिलेवेंट है. तो इसी वजह से आप अगर बात करोगे वी अगर आपको ऑब्जेक्टिव है कि वी वांट गुड ह्यूमन कैपिटल इन द कंट्री, तो वो हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव है. ठीक है, वी वांट आवर फार्मर्स टू डू वेल, हाँ वो हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव है. अगर आप अगर ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हमारे सेम हो सकते हैं, अचीव करने का मीन्स अलग हो सकता है. तो ऐसा नहीं कि हमारे ऑब्जेक्टिव्स ही नहीं है, हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव बस आके बस छीन लो और अपना बस सब कुछ खत्म कर दो और छुट्टी पे चले जाओ, वो नहीं है हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव. हमारा भी ऑब्जेक्टिव ये है कि मतलब कि ट्राई टू डू द गुड फॉर द कंट्री, मगर मीन्स अलग.
So I would also just like, I mean, it was a very funny quip that, it would be nice to see LPI guys explain to farmers why we will be taking away the freebies. But one thing, we would also like to, actually today also I posted about the same thing that, the farm laws were actually not opposed by majority of the farmers in the country. So the
Yes.
Supreme Court report itself said 83 or 87 or 85, something around that amount of percentage of farmers actually supported it, but they were just like a silent, majority. But it was just that very small vocal guys who were really good at organizing. They actually whipped it up. They created it into a
Yeah.
political issue, and the government backed down. So farmers also should, and there are farmers organizations like the organization that Sharad Joshi started, the Shetkari Sangatana. They represent a lot of farmer organizations, a lot of farmers, and they have been protesting against the other side by saying, we want these laws because we are not able to get the best price for our products wherever it is, because we have to go through this middleman. We are forced to go through this middleman, and farmers oppose it. And also, if we actually tell to the farmers that how much of their money on every single thing that they buy has a component of GST on their fuel and all, I think there is a
Yeah.
convincing argument to be made. On top of
Yeah.
that, whenever the prices go up in international markets or everywhere, the government will suddenly say you can't export your produce, right? So a farmer, suddenly there's a shortage in some other country. So our policies also will benefit the farmer when the prices increase. He can actually go and sell it abroad by having a futures market. He will have consistency, like he will be able to hedge his bets. And the other important point, especially because West Bengal farmers, I think it's also a very libertarian point that we have to mention, that a government that is powerful to give you everything that you want in freebies or whatever is also powerful enough to take away everything that you have. And that is exactly what happened when the government took away all the land of the farmers in Singur and gave it to Tata. So that is exactly the sort of situation that will happen, and they will never be safe. They'll never own their property. Government can take it anyway. And it's not going to be an easy process, but I think we have a strong point to make there.
But even in Shingur, on paper, at least 80% had actually said that, yeah, we are fine now. After all, they have taken it and now they are giving some compensation because of the protest and stuff. In the end, 80% were in favor of the factory.
And finally they got their
Irony.
land back or something. I
Yeah.
think the whole thing was concreted, and it was
Yeah.
totally destroyed, and a lot of violence involved. So see, nobody
Yeah.
wants to be suddenly uprooted from their livelihood. And of course, if they see more industrialization, more jobs, most of people don't really want to do farmer. No farmer will say, I want my son to be farmer. He wants him to actually do something which is more productive. And farming in India is extremely unproductive because you have a smaller land parcels, things like farm laws, which were not allowed to happen, are keeping our agriculture relatively poor. So we need more productivity there. So yeah, I think we have a lot of policies that I think these people will accept it. But there has to be a very good education campaign and awareness campaign. Even the government did a bad job at that. In fact, the farm laws were pretty good. They just had to do a proper education campaign and counter narratives. Somehow there all the IT cell and all of that was absolutely useless in face of that. So it's about having a little bit better vision and better strategy to do these things.
Yeah.
Even with
And
the
people,
Shingur issue,
ये
Yeah.
जो लोग हमें कहते हैं कि oh you are unaware of reality, you are living in a fantasy, ये conclusion हमारे कोई हवा से निकल के नहीं आया. We have talked to the people and you realize कि they may not be educated but they definitely have common sense, and हर किसी को अपना self interest पता है कि what is in the good of my self interest. वो बस organized नहीं है, वो problem अलग है, मगर everybody is sufficiently intelligent to know their self interest. So and some are even and many are even capable of understanding के इन अगर collective का नुकसान किन चीजों से होगा. People get it कि freebies से नुकसान होता है क्योंकि वो उनको incentivize करता है जो काम नहीं करते और उनसे छीनता है जो काम करते हैं. People get it. It's not like people. एक तो ये बहुत नोटिस किया, जैसे रिसेंटली काफी ज्यादा टायरेड है हमारे अगेंस्ट. They think कि हम फैंटेसी वर्ल्ड में रह रहे हैं. ऐसा नहीं है. People that comes from के they have fundamental distrust के भाई Indians are low intelligent and low. एक पहली बात तो स्टडी फेक है, लो IQ वाली. दूसरी बात, they live in fantasy world. जो वो मीडिया में देखते हैं, जो वो सोशल मीडिया में देखते हैं, उस रील्स देखते हैं, उससे अज्यूम कर लेते हैं कि पूरा इंडिया ऐसा है. जबकि ऐसा नहीं है. आप इफ यू गो आउट, टॉक टू द पीपल, यू फाइंड आउट के फाइन पीपल ऑल अराउंड. मैडनेस इज कॉमन इन मासेस, but individuals are sufficiently relevant, rational. तो आपको इतनी ज्यादा assumption लाने की जरूरत नहीं कि oh people can't think ये सब वो सब, ऐसा इतनी प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. If we make a good case like Milley succeeded in Argentina, we can succeed here.
Yeah, AcademicMan, go ahead.
In the Shingur issue, when the people were buying lands there privately, like let's say I want to own a house there and I went to a farmer and bought his land, then there were no problems. It's only when the government tried to buy lands for cheap or very little money that the farmers got angry. So again, when the government bypassed market, they got screwed. So that was the whole issue.
Yeah.
If they just left it to private forces for exploiting land, I think it would have been this big a problem. So
the other question is, Marxist propaganda destroyed education by monopolizing teacher unions. If completely privatized, how will you prevent organizations with foreign interests from monopolizing education through loss leader strategies? And she has a follow-up as well, but I'll get to that as well. Where did it go? Yeah, this is Marxist propaganda. And please don't say you'll regulate FDI. They can distribute through thousands of shelf NGOs to make the funding untraceable.
Okay, so definitely one is the thing is the Marxist propaganda, socialist propaganda has already dominated, right? So it is not you're worrying about somebody from abroad coming and doing it. When one is already happening, it in that case it is somebody from another country who will have to spend so many crores of rupees to actually indoctrinate people. Here it is you are paying for it right now. You are paying for all the indoctrination. How many lakhs of crores is the Indian government spending on all of this? And who is actually going to come and from another country and try to think that they can take over India by spending lakhs of crores on Marxist propaganda? That is less feasible and less practical than this. And the other thing is in the private sector, we have like lakhs of schools today. How are we going to actually get into everyone and do all the propaganda? We'll push our own free market philosophy everywhere, and most schools just want to teach them math, physics, science. It's only when the government controls the curriculum that the problem exists. One or two institutions here and there is not going to affect the country.
I have noticed that every time Libertarian Party of India comes on my channel, they get a lot of questions about how they will solve this particular issue if they come to power, but which won't even exist in the first place if they have their way. Just like
most of the time.
No, can I interject here with one point? If you're taking that, let's say, for example, foreign country funds a school here, okay, whatever, institute here. Do you know the bigger issue, the reason that you can't fight that thing, or even if the government is teaching Marxism in college, the real reason that you can't fight these things is because your temples are not free and your religious institutions cannot open their own institutions. That is the real reason that you cannot fight the propaganda. Your hands are tied, your legs are tied, and you're tied to a chair. You open the chair, you open the ropes, and you fight openly. I mean,
and all that propaganda has
exactly.
All that propaganda has mainly happened in the humanities education field, which is government subsidized, almost 100%.
Which is the most subsidized by the government.
Yes.
So the thing is that the solution is not like the bigger issue is here that people don't necessarily always build their ideology based on what they learn in school. For example, we all learned that spitting on the road is bad. You must always salute the Indian flag. You must always stand up during the Indian national anthem. A lot of people don't really believe in that. Many things you learned in school, you don't believe in all that. Okay, you just had to memorize it for an exam.
Yes.
The real way you can change a society if you want to is by incentivizing that way of life that you want to see established.
Yes.
So if there are elites who are dharmic, let's say, then more and more people will emulate those elites. The left made the government fund. Matlab the government was leftist, so they funded leftist elites. So now everyone wants to be a leftist elite. If all this stuff was taken away and the Hindus could open their own schools and colleges and stuff and create their own set of elites, those would be the people who would set the standards of life or way of living.
Yeah.
But right now, thanks to government policies, you can't do that. And by the time you have this whole reversal, it will take at least 50 years for you to do that.
Yeah.
Again, the market will give you a better result even in this respect.
Yeah.
So
She's saying BOB, BHAL, SBI, BAL, etc. successfully turned around when faced with competition and the choice of improve or shut down. Won't this be the case with education sector as well and
But
public?
we are already seeing the competition, right? So the private schools have been stealing all the students from the government schools. The number of students that are enrolled in government schools is actually decreasing. The government is continuously year on year in the budget, the amount of money that they're allocating to government schools is actually increasing. So the competition already exists, and it is that they have failed. So few institutions here and there, even see, SBI has an incredible amount of history, and for a long time there was no private banks allowed, right? Barely 20-25 years ago is when we started getting the first private bank. So 50-60 years of history, penetration in rural, and that huge base, and the fact that it is government also gives people a lot of trust in them. So yes, sometimes they have a huge advantage, so which is not really fair to compete. But let us forget all that. Let us assume that with competition they can compete. We are not seeing that happen anywhere. So we are already seeing that competition, and they're failing there.
So this kind of a topic we already discussed. If people were rational enough to decide based on ROI, would Shingur have happened? Then check Sports Authority of India, Babu Organization, Hydra Organization, top of Sports Ministry and Sports Federations. Education has also this Babu Organization.
a
Yeah, so
European had
about
once told me that you have a country of 1 billion people, but you don't have a football team. So I said, yes, we do have a football team, but it's nowhere close to the top. Okay.
And
So
have you seen our performance in UFC?
I had to tell him that we had a better football team back in the British period, because back then people actually established their own clubs and used to play amongst themselves, and they got better that way. So even at that time, people with bare feet would play better football than what we have now. So that's the whole government involvement right there.
Yeah. Uneducated people are the best utilitarians. You'll have to redefine the utility of paying for education when they would get for free and a meal otherwise.
No, true, but anyway, see, if people don't really, if there are some parents who don't want to send their kids to school, there's nothing that you can actually do about it. But the thing is, nobody's going to give them like free money, right? So if in the voucher scheme, then they'll only be able to avail of education in the transitionary move. And beyond that, if some people don't want to send their kids to school, that is just a part of things. I mean, there'll be automatically corrective cycle around it. So.
Our friend channel is saying, who has ever had an excellent experience interacting with an SBI clerk?
I mean, you are lucky if somebody was able to actually interact with them, because it's always lunch break. And anybody who actually interacts with them is lucky. First of all, you won't even see them. So,
yeah. Now, Ajay, what do we do about unions? Should they be allowed and should they be not allowed? Teachers unions.
Okay. Teachers unions absolutely should not be allowed. So any government sector, I don't think unions should be allowed. In the private sector, unions, if a bunch of people get together and voluntarily want to see, for example, you have a software company and suddenly all the employees come and say, you know what, the wages are not enough. So we have offers from another company. Either you hike it up, all of us, 10 of us, the core team, or we're just going to jump. And they have to negotiate with the company. The company can say, you know what, I need you guys, I'll pay you. Or they'll say, fine, I'll find somebody else, I'll hire somebody else, and that is fine. It's a voluntary transaction. As long as that happens, it's fine. But as long as they say, you have to listen to whatever the union decides, because the government has created some rules, that is wrong. So we oppose government intervention in the whole, labor union versus company transactions. And on top of that, I believe very strongly that there should be no unions in the government sector. So if you're a teacher in a government school, the assumption is that you're serving the public, or at least that's what they claim, even though they're not. They're doing a shitty job at it. That's the assumption. Then what are you again saying? Like, you are the government that's supposed to take care of everything. You already decided the pay scales. Now, what is this union nonsense again? Absolutely must be. Yeah, seriously, what the heck, right? Just get rid of them, and
Union leaders are just politicians who belong to the same job as you, and then they control the transfers and all. Like, matlab, if half your life or 70% of your life is spent in getting a good transfer, then kab padhaoge? When will you teach? What will you teach? Whom will you teach?
Yeah.
Right? And this will always remain. Whenever government is involved, there will always be one neta or another you have to oil and whatever, and your energy will go in that. Padhana chhod ke sab ho raha hai, basically.
Yeah. Now we'll take closing remarks from Ajay, Academic Man, and Tushar in Hindi, and Academic Man English if you want. Closing remarks on if right now a person who has never heard of libertarianism and thinks of public school as the obvious go-to solution for solving our poverty and stuff, why should we privatize education? First, Ajay.
We should privatize education because all the evidence is basically right in front of you that even the poorest of the poor don't want to send their kids to government schools. So it's everybody knows that the government schools are very substandard, and it is not for shortage of funds because there also all the facts are out that a government school spends almost twice or 2.5 times the amount of money that a private school spends. So it is not a question of lack of funding. As far as administration, we have supervisory officers, everything, and we have private schools on one side where everybody is going to them, and the fact that they're actually doing it at such a low cost and providing such quality education compared to the government school, the evidence is right in front of you. Right now 50%, 30 to 50% of the schools or students in the country are being educated in affordable private schools where the fees is less than 500 rupees a month. So definitely government is not the solution. All the evidence is in front of you, and as libertarians we definitely want to transition from this inefficient use of taxpayer money to a much more efficient system where also the outcomes, especially in primary schools, improve, because these people will now be able to, the schools will have to compete for their business, and when there is competition it's better. Also, I just want to add a slightly tangential point here. There's also another huge problem, as we've already spoken in previous episodes, about the caste system. So every few months you open the newspaper, you will see news about how some Dalit student has been discriminated in a government school, where they're made to sweep the floor or they're supposed to sit in the back, or
Yeah,
they're
even in West
mistreated.
Bengal.
Yeah, even in West Bengal, which is so obviously it's a problem everywhere in the country. So the
Yeah.
moment parents have the voucher in hand, they can go to any school that is begging them, come and join us. Then that school, if they discriminate against the student, the parent will not put up with it. They'll say, screw you, we are paying for it. So it empowers them, and also it
Yeah.
gives them that self-respect, and or the kids' education
Yeah.
will improve. And this whole nonsense of discriminating against kids, which is a very brutal and atrocious behavior in government schools, will obviously get phased out, because schools have to compete now for the business.
तुषार, एजुकेशन क्यों प्राइवेटाइज करना चाहिए?
मेरा तो सिंपल कमेंट ये है कि आप कोई चाहोगे कि कोई नेता आपके बच्चों को पढ़ाए? आपने स्पीचेस देखी हैं उनकी? तो आप एक्सपेक्ट करते हो कि भाई वो केयर करेंगे कि वो आपके बच्चे अच्छे से पढ़ें? उनका कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं है। उनके बच्चे बाहर पढ़ते हैं, उनके बच्चे गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में पढ़ते भी नहीं। और आपके बच्चों को वो चाहते हैं कि वो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स में पढ़े, तो ये नहीं हो सकता। और अगर आप कुछ रिफॉर्म चाहते हो तो आस्क योर लीडर्स टू सेंड देयर चिल्ड्रन टू गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स, तब देखना क्या फर्क आएगा।
ये कंपलसरी करना ही है। गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉइज
यूनिवर्सिटीज एज वेल, दे कैन नॉट गो टू फॉरेन यूनिवर्सिटीज फॉर हायर एजुकेशन। गो यूनिवर्सिटीज इन इंडिया, तब पता चलेगा तुम्हें। ये जो तुम हार्वर्ड के डिग्री की फोटो खींचते रहते हो ना अपने बच्चों के साथ, तब तुम्हें थोड़ा समझ में आएगा कि कैसे चीटिंग कर रहे हैं नॉर्मल पब्लिक के साथ।
यस, academic man.
Even then what will happen is, this is my closing remarks, and I also say one. Even then what will happen is, there'll be that one school or college that will be heavily funded and really good infrastructure, और वही भेजेंगे। मतलब that is how it works. The rest of the 110,000 schools in the country will not be good. वो one school वही पे सब भेजेंगे, and वही all एक caste system बन जाएगा अलग से।
Yes.
Apart from that, I believe that there is the biggest problem is that if you see the budget of West Bengal, 5,000 crores have been allocated to madrasas.
5.5 crores for the last few years.
5,500 crores, which is a huge amount of money in a state like West Bengal, which is absolutely dirt poor, where most people.
Our Lokhir Bhandar budget is 12,000 crore rupees.
वो तो छोड़ ही दो, वो तो मतलब भूल ही जाओ। वो सबको, एलपीआई को भी वेस्ट बंगाल में पावर में आने के लिए लोकीर भंडार 2.0 करना पड़ेगा। So West Bengal people are so poor that anyway, forget that. My point is this, that see what happens is an interest group is created by whatever reason, and they tell the government ki bhai, if you spend on this, I will give you. If you spend taxpayers' money on my benefits, my institutions, then I will give you votes.
Yeah.
So what's happening is the rest of the taxpayers are being held hostage by the government for their votes, and other people are kind of getting their interests done by the government with your money. Okay, pura khatam kar do, and then you will see that how things change completely. But till the time that the government invests in education, there will be vested interests behind this investment, and that will never be your interest. That much I can say. Whoever is the viewer, I can guarantee you it will never be your interest that will be served. And other than that, Ajay and Tushar have made wonderful comments, so I have nothing to add. Yeah.
Okay then. Thanks a lot, Ajay, Tushar, and AcademicMan for coming to our podcast and explaining this very important topic, which we'll have to revisit countless times, I think. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, Tushar.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you, AcademicMan. Thank you, guys. See you soon. Good night.
যদি সবাই ফিরে যায় ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায় যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায় তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না তবে একলা চলো রে যদি আলো না ধরে ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে তবে বজ্রানলে বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা জলরে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা জলরে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলরে একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো একলা চলো